Some people say, love conquers all. They're wrong. Love gets beaten down by 1,000 small cruelties, worn thin by years of disrespect, and finally strangled by the realization that you're fighting alone for something the other person never valued. My name is Jack Hayes. I'm 34 years old, and I've spent the last 6 years learning what it costs to love someone whose family thinks you're beneath them. I'm an industrial electrician. I make $68,000 a year working at the Riverside manufacturing plant, maintaining the electrical systems that keep the production lines running. It's honest work. Work that requires skill, attention to detail, and the kind of reliability that keeps people's lights on and machines humming. At 26, while most of my friends were still figuring out their lives, I bought my house. A modest 3-bedroom ranch on Maple Street with a 2-car garage and a backyard big enough for a garden. I paid it off in 8 years through overtime shifts, weekend side jobs, and living below my means. No mortgage, no debt, just a man who built something solid with his own hands and sweat. But none of that mattered to Gloria Palmer. To her, I was just the electrician who married her daughter. I met Vanessa 8 years ago at a 4th of July barbecue thrown by my buddy Mike from work. She was 26, managing a clothing store at the mall, with laugh lines around her green eyes and auburn hair that caught the sunlight. I was 26, still an apprentice electrician with calloused hands and work boots that had seen better days. She was sitting on Mike's back porch, nursing a beer and watching the kids run around with sparklers. I walked over, introduced myself, and we talked until the fireworks started. She didn't flinch when I told her what I did for a living. "That's cool," she said, and I could tell she meant it. "You actually fix things, build things. That's more than most people can say." Our courtship was genuine, real. Vanessa loved that I didn't pretend to be something I wasn't. She'd drive over after her shifts at the store, and we'd sit on my couch eating takeout and watching old movies. She said I was authentic, her word. For 2 years, it was just us, simple, honest, good. Then I met Gloria. "So you're an electrician," she said the first time Vanessa brought me to Sunday dinner. The way she pronounced it made it sound like a disease. Her eyes traveled from my collared shirt, my best one, to my work boots, which I'd scrubbed clean but couldn't make look new. "Yes, ma'am. Industrial electrician at Riverside Manufacturing," I replied. "I see." She turned back to Vanessa. "And how long have you two been seeing each other?" That dinner set the pattern for everything that followed. Gloria's tight smiles in wedding photos, her pointed comments about practical careers versus professional advancement, the way she'd steer dinner conversation toward Vanessa's brother Jason, the financial analyst, and his wife Kelly, the registered nurse. "Jason just got another promotion," she'd announce, looking directly at me. "Regional manager now. Kelly's working toward her nurse practitioner license. They're really building something together." The implication was always clear. Unlike you and my daughter. For the first 3 years of our marriage, I endured those family dinners. I sat at Gloria's table, ate her pot roast, and let her snide comments roll off my back because I thought it would get better. Because I loved Vanessa enough to believe that time would change things. It didn't. After 3 years of Gloria's passive-aggressive warfare, I stopped going to family events. Vanessa would drive to her parents' house alone while I stayed home, feeling both relieved and abandoned. She'd return with updates I didn't ask for and apologies I didn't want to hear. "She doesn't mean anything by it, Jack. That's just how she is," she would say. But I knew exactly what Gloria meant. Every word was calculated, designed to make me feel small, to remind me that in her eyes, her daughter had married down. 2 years into our marriage, Vanessa quit her job at the store. "I want to focus on our home," she explained. I supported her completely, financially and emotionally. I made enough for both of us, and seeing her happy mattered more than the extra income. But to Gloria, this was fresh ammunition. "She's financially dependent on a blue-collar worker," I overheard her tell her sister Diane during one Christmas gathering. It breaks my heart. Financial dependent, as if taking care of your wife was something shameful. By year 4, the pattern was cemented. Vanessa would visit her family solo. I'd work overtime, fix things around the house, and wait for her to come home with tension in her shoulders and guilt in her voice. The cycle repeated for 2 more years, until last month, when Vanessa approached me about Thanksgiving with hope in her eyes and desperation in her voice. My mom's changed, Jack. I know how that sounds, but she has. She wants to bury the hatchet. She specifically asked me to invite you, she said. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. At 34, Vanessa was still beautiful, but 6 years of navigating between her husband and her mother had worn lines around her eyes. She wanted this to work, needed it to work. One more chance, I said. But this is it, Vanessa. If she starts her usual routine, I'm done. She won't, Vanessa promised. She's ready to move forward. I should have trusted my gut, because the moment I walked through that door, I knew. Gloria hadn't changed at all. She'd just been sharpening her knives. Thanksgiving morning arrived gray and cold as I pulled my truck into the Palmer driveway. Their house stood before us like a monument to suburban success. 2 stories of brick and vinyl siding, professional landscaping, and a 3-car garage. Vanessa had been quiet during the 20-minute drive, occasionally reaching over to adjust my collar. Nervous grooming. She wanted this to go well so badly I could feel it radiating off her. Remember what we talked about, she said as I killed the engine. Clean slate, fresh start. Howard Palmer answered the door. Vanessa's father, a man who'd perfected the art of passive existence in a house ruled by his wife's opinions. He was 62, soft around the middle, with the perpetually tired expression of someone who'd stopped fighting battles long ago. Jack, good to see you. His handshake was firm but brief. Come in. Gloria's in the kitchen. The dining room table was set for 7. Gloria and Howard, Jason and his wife Kelly, Gloria's sister Diane, and us. The good china was out, crystal glasses catching the light from the chandelier overhead. Jason appeared from the living room, beer in hand, wearing a smile that seemed genuine enough. Glad you could make it. How's work treating you? Can't complain. Busy season with all the holiday shutdowns, I answered. Kelly emerged behind him, petite and blonde with polished appearance. Hi, Jack. It's been forever. She gave me a quick hug that felt obligatory but not unkind. Diane was already seated, Gloria's older sister who'd never married and seemed to live vicariously through her sister's family dramas. Then Gloria swept in from the kitchen, carrying a serving dish of green bean casserole. At 58, she'd maintained her figure through expensive gym memberships and sheer force of will. Her silver hair was styled perfectly, her makeup flawless. Jack, she said, her smile bright and cold as winter sunshine. How wonderful that you could join us. Thank you for having me, Gloria, I replied. Of course. Family is family, after all. The first 30 minutes passed smoothly enough. Howard carved while Gloria orchestrated the passing of dishes. The conversation stayed safely neutral. Weather, traffic, holiday shopping plans. I helped myself to turkey and stuffing, kept my mouth busy with food instead of words. Vanessa kept glancing at me, checking my temperature like I might explode without warning. But I was fine. Calm. If Gloria wanted to play nice, I could play along. Then, halfway through the meal, she started. So, Jack, Gloria said, delicately cutting her turkey into precise pieces. Still working at the plant? Yes, ma'am. Same position, but I've taken on more responsibilities. Training new apprentices, overseeing the maintenance schedule, I responded. Responsibilities. That's wonderful. She chewed thoughtfully. Any talk of promotions? Moving up in management, perhaps? Here we go. I'm happy where I am. Good pay, good benefits, and I enjoy the work. Oh, I'm sure you do, but surely you must think about advancement. She turned to Jason. Jason just made regional manager, didn't you, sweetheart? Tell Jack about the promotion. Jason shifted uncomfortably. Mom, I'm sure Jack doesn't want to... Nonsense, Gloria interrupted. It's good to share success stories. Jason's managing 12 branch offices now. Base salary of $95,000 plus bonuses. And Kelly just got accepted into the nurse practitioner program. That's great, I said. You should be proud. We are. So proud. Gloria's eyes fixed on mine. It's important to have goals, to keep pushing forward. I suppose it's all relative, though. What's considered good money in one profession might be adequate in another. The table fell silent except for the soft clink of silverware against china. Vanessa's fork had stopped moving. Jason was studying his plate. Howard reached for his wine glass. Mom, Vanessa said quietly. Please. What, dear? Gloria replied innocently. I'm just making conversation. It's wonderful that Jack is content with his position. She wasn't done. I was telling Mrs. Martin from church about you, Jack. When I told her you were an electrician, she said, "Oh, how nice. Those trade workers are so important." Trade workers. As if you were service personnel. My hands tightened around my fork. The people who keep the lights on and the machines running are pretty essential, Gloria. Of course. I didn't mean to imply otherwise, she said, though her tone suggested she meant exactly that. It's just that Vanessa is so bright, so capable. She could have married anyone, someone with real potential, someone who could provide her with the kind of life she deserves. The words hung in the air like smoke. Vanessa's face had gone pale. Jason was shaking his head slightly. Howard had given up pretending to eat. Real potential, I repeated slowly. Professional growth, advancement opportunities, the ability to provide more than just adequacy. Gloria's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Vanessa is 34 now. She should be thinking about her future. Instead, she's dependent on a man who fixes wires for a living. Something inside me snapped. Not dramatically. Just a clean, quiet break, like a circuit overloading and shutting down. I set down my fork and looked directly at Gloria Palmer. You want to talk about adequacy? My voice was calm, conversational. Let's talk about it. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I own my house outright. Bought it at 26, paid it off at 34. No mortgage, Gloria. No debt of any kind. How's your mortgage situation? After 30 years in this place, do you and Howard still owe the bank money? Gloria's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. You want to talk about providing for your daughter? I've supported Vanessa completely for 4 years. She hasn't worked because she doesn't have to work. How much money do you bring into this household, Gloria? Jack, Vanessa started. I held up my hand without looking at her. I'm not finished. I leaned forward slightly, my voice dropping to barely above a whisper. You want to talk about character? I've sat at this table for 6 years listening to your passive-aggressive bullshit. I've endured your snide comments because I love your daughter. But you're a miserable, shallow woman who measures human worth by job titles and tax brackets. Gloria's face had turned red, her carefully composed mask finally slipping. How dare you? How dare I what? I interrupted. Tell the truth? Point out that you've spent 6 years trying to make me feel worthless because your daughter chose a man who actually loves her instead of a paycheck. I straightened up, looking around the table. You know what the difference is between me and the kind of man you think Vanessa should have married? I would never disrespect her the way you've disrespected me. Gloria's eyes filled with tears. Whether from rage or humiliation, I couldn't tell and didn't care. You sit in this house that your husband paid for, eating food bought with his money, and you judge me for being a working man. But at least I work, Gloria. At least I contribute something to the world besides bitterness and disappointment. The silence that followed was deafening. Gloria was crying openly now, her perfect makeup beginning to run. Howard sat frozen. Jason looked like he wanted to disappear. I turned to Vanessa, my wife of 6 years, the woman I'd loved enough to endure all of this for. I'm leaving, I said quietly. You coming? Vanessa's green eyes darted between me and her mother, who was now sobbing into her napkin while Diane awkwardly patted her shoulder. She chose her mother. "Jack, you need to apologize," she said. The words hit me like a physical blow. After everything, after 6 years of insults and undermining and disrespect, she wanted me to apologize. "She's been cruel to me for 6 years, Vanessa." "She's my mother, Jack," she replied. "And I'm your husband." We stared at each other across the ruins of Thanksgiving dinner, across the wreckage of our marriage. "If you don't apologize to my mother," Vanessa's voice was barely audible, "I can't go with you." Something fundamental shifted inside me, like tectonic plates moving deep underground. "Then stay," I said. I walked out of that house and didn't look back. Got in my truck, drove home through empty streets, and sat in my driveway for 10 minutes, waiting for my phone to ring. The phone never rang. I spent Thanksgiving night on my couch, staring at my phone and waiting for a call that never came. The house felt different, bigger somehow, like Vanessa's absence had created physical space where warmth used to be. By midnight, I'd convinced myself she'd walk through the door. She'd realize what had happened, stand up to her mother for the first time in her life, and come home to me. We'd talk it through. Maybe finally have the conversation we should have had years ago. Dawn broke gray and cold, and I was alone. Friday passed in a haze of disbelief. I kept expecting her to appear, to act like the last 24 hours had been some kind of nightmare. I cleaned the house, vacuumed the living room, did the dishes, made the bed we'd shared for 6 years. At 2 in the afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text message. "Staying at my parents' for a few days. Need time to think. Need time to think." Not, "I'm sorry you were disrespected." Not, "I should have defended you." Need time to think. I called her immediately. "Vanessa, what the hell? Come home. Let's talk about this." Her voice was cold, distant, like she was talking to a stranger. "Not until you apologize to my mother." "I will not apologize for defending myself," I said. "Then we have nothing to talk about," she replied. The line went dead. I called back 3 times. She didn't answer. The days crawled forward like wounded animals. I went to work Monday morning because I didn't know what else to do. Work became my refuge. Physical tasks that required focus, problems with solutions, systems that made sense. Then I'd drive home to an empty house, and the weight of silence would settle on me again. Tuesday evening, I tried calling once more. "Vanessa, this is insane. Your mother was completely out of line, and you know it. You humiliated her in her own home," she replied. "She humiliated me for 6 years," I shot back. "She's family, Jack," she said. "So am I. Or I'm supposed to be." Another hang-up. Another night of replaying every moment of our relationship, looking for signs I'd missed. Had Vanessa always been this conflict-averse? Had she always chosen the path of least resistance over doing what was right? The answer was yes, and I'd been too in love to see it clearly. By the end of the first week, a pattern had emerged. Vanessa would text occasionally, brief, cold updates about staying with her parents, needing space, waiting for me to do the right thing. I'd call and she'd either ignore me or deliver the same ultimatum. Apologize or we have nothing to discuss. I began to understand that she genuinely believed I was wrong, that standing up for myself was somehow a betrayal of our marriage. In her mind, I should have continued to take Gloria's abuse indefinitely because that was easier than confronting her mother. The second week was worse than the first. I'd adjusted to her physical absence, but the emotional abandonment cut deeper each day. I'd catch myself setting 2 coffee cups in the morning, buying groceries for 2 people. But she wasn't coming home. Not unless I crawled back to Gloria Palmer and begged forgiveness for the crime of self-respect. I started replaying our entire marriage, looking at it through this new lens. How many times had Vanessa chosen her mother's comfort over mine? How many family events had I skipped to avoid Gloria's passive-aggressive warfare? The pattern was everywhere once I started looking. Vanessa was incapable of disappointing her mother, She'd rather sacrifice her husband's dignity, her marriage's foundation, our entire future together, than have one difficult conversation with Gloria Palmer. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, I bought a book called Emotional Manipulation in Relationships. I read it cover to cover in one sitting, recognizing patterns I'd lived with for years. The subtle gaslighting, the guilt trips. Vanessa wasn't evil, she wasn't calculating, but she was weak. And her weakness had slowly eroded every boundary I'd tried to establish. I thought about couples therapy. Maybe if we had a neutral third party, we could work through this. But even as I considered it, I knew the truth. Nothing would change. Vanessa would sit in therapy and nod at the right moments. But the next time Gloria expressed disapproval, my wife would fold like origami. 4 weeks after Thanksgiving, I was sitting in my truck outside the plant after my shift ended, staring at another text from Vanessa. "My mom is really hurt, Jack. She just wants an apology. Is your pride really worth our marriage?" I read those words 3 times before something crystallized in my mind. She'd gotten it exactly backwards. Her mother's pride was what had started this, and Vanessa's unwillingness to demand that apology was what was ending it. I drove to the office of attorney Patricia Cole that afternoon. Patricia was in her 50s, with steel gray hair and the kind of direct gaze that suggested she'd seen every variation of human stupidity the legal system had to offer. "Tell me what's going on," she said. I explained the whole situation. 6 years of disrespect, a wife who wouldn't defend me, a month-long abandonment because I finally stood up for myself. Patricia listened without interruption. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "How long has she been gone?" she asked. 4 weeks. "Any communication about coming home?" "Only demands that I apologize to her mother." Patricia nodded slowly. "In Virginia, abandonment is grounds for divorce, but more importantly, you need to ask yourself if this marriage is worth saving. From what you've described, the fundamental problem isn't going to change." I sat in that office chair and felt something settle in my chest. Clarity, resolution, peace, maybe. "I want to file for divorce," I said. "The house?" she asked. "Mine before marriage." "Savings?" "Joint account. About 80,000. "This should be straightforward," she explained. "She'll get half the marital assets, the savings, but the house is yours. I'm sure." 1 week later, the papers were ready. I sent them to the Palmer house via certified mail, and then I waited for the explosion. The explosion came 48 hours later. I was replacing a faulty transformer when my phone started buzzing. The first call came at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. Vanessa's name lit up my screen, but I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, and again. By the 4th call, Pete noticed my distraction. "Answer the damn phone, Hayes." I stepped outside into the December cold and called her back. "Jack, what the hell is this?" Vanessa's voice was shrill, panicked, nothing like the cold distance of the past month. "Divorce papers?" I said calmly. "You're divorcing me?" she screamed. "Yes." Silence stretched between us, broken only by the distant hum of machinery and the sound of Vanessa's sharp breathing. "You can't be serious. Over an argument? Over one bad dinner?" The casual dismissal of 6 years of systematic disrespect hit me like a slap. One bad dinner. As if the problem had started and ended with Thanksgiving. "It wasn't one bad dinner, Vanessa. It was 6 years of you choosing your mother over me. 6 years of you refusing to defend our marriage," I replied. That's not how it was," she said weakly. "That's exactly how it was. And when I finally stood up for myself, you chose her side. Again." I could hear her crying now, the kind of ugly sobbing that comes when reality hits like a freight train. "We can work this out. We can go to therapy. Please don't do this." I tried to work it out for 6 years. I tried to be patient, understanding, forgiving. It didn't get better. "It won't," I said. "Jack, please." "The terms are simple," I interrupted. "You get half the savings, $40,000. That's it. The house is mine. I bought it before we met. This is insane. You can't just throw away our marriage because you're mad at my mother, she said. Mad at her mother. Even now, she couldn't see it. Couldn't understand that this was about her, about us, about the fundamental breakdown of partnership and respect. Sign the papers, Vanessa. It's the best deal you're going to get, I said. I hung up and immediately blocked her number, not out of anger, but out of necessity. This conversation would repeat endlessly if I let it. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? You think you can just throw away my daughter? Gloria's voice was venomous, all pretense of politeness finally abandoned. After everything our family has done for you? Everything our family has done for you. The delusion was so complete, so breathtaking in its scope, that I almost laughed. Your family has done nothing for me except make me feel unwelcome for 6 years, I said. Vanessa deserves better than you. Then she can go find him, I replied, hanging up. I blocked that number too. Then I blocked Howard's number, Jason's, even mutual friends who might try to guilt me back into a marriage that had died the moment my wife chose her mother's feelings over mine. Over the next few weeks, I heard through the grapevine that Vanessa was devastated. Crying constantly, barely eating, living in her childhood bedroom like a teenager. Gloria, according to these same sources, was already talking about better prospects. A lawyer from their church, an accountant who lived in her neighborhood, someone appropriate. The irony was lost on them. Gloria was already planning her daughter's next relationship, while Vanessa grieved the end of this one. I felt nothing when I heard these updates. No satisfaction, no vindication, no lingering hurt. Just a vast sense of relief, like I'd been holding my breath for 6 years and could finally exhale. I started going to therapy myself, not to save my marriage, but to understand how I'd stayed in a relationship that required me to accept disrespect as the price of admission. Dr. Sarah specialized in relationships and self-worth. What kept you there so long? She asked during our 3rd session. I thought love meant sacrificing for the other person, I answered. What about reciprocity? What was she sacrificing for you? I couldn't answer that question, because Vanessa had never sacrificed anything for our marriage. The sacrifice had always flowed in one direction. Healthy relationships require mutual respect, Dr. Sarah explained. When one person consistently prioritizes others over their partner, the relationship becomes unbalanced, unsustainable. The divorce was finalized on March 15th, 3.5 months after Thanksgiving. I signed the papers in Patricia Cole's office, transferred Vanessa's share of the savings to her personal account, and walked out into the spring sunshine a free man. That evening, I sat on my back porch with a beer and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. My phone had stopped ringing weeks earlier. The drama had ended, the chaos had settled, and what remained was simple, quiet, good. I owned my house. I enjoyed my work. I had friends who respected me. The papers were signed. The marriage was over. And for the first time in 6 years, I could breathe. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I turned 35 in my own house, surrounded by friends who'd never questioned my worth or made me feel like I needed to apologize for who I was. The transformation hadn't been dramatic. There was no sudden enlightenment, no moment of triumphant revelation. Instead, it was like slowly recovering from a long illness, strength returning gradually, colors becoming brighter, sleep coming easier. I still work at Riverside Manufacturing, still fix the electrical systems that keep the production lines running. The difference is that I no longer apologize for what I do or feel defensive about earning an honest living with my hands. I've started dating casually. Nothing serious yet, but I'm open to it in ways I couldn't be while married to someone who required me to shrink myself to fit into her family's narrow vision. I bought new furniture for the house, painted the guest room, and adopted a dog, a German shepherd named Hank. My parents are proud of me. My father, a retired plumber, told me, "You stood up for yourself, son. That's all a man can do." I hear occasional updates about Vanessa through mutual acquaintances. She's still living with her parents at 35. Gloria has introduced her to several suitable men, professionals with the right credentials, but none have worked out. Vanessa seems lost, adrift. She'd spent 6 years married to a man who loved her completely, and she'd thrown it away rather than have one difficult conversation with her mother. I don't gloat about her situation. I don't feel vindicated. Mostly, I feel nothing at all, which is probably the healthiest response. I've learned that you can't build a life with someone who won't defend you. Love isn't enough if respect isn't part of the foundation. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from someone who will never choose you. This morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own house, next to a dog who thinks I'm perfect exactly as I am. I made coffee for one person, read the news without anxiety, and drove to work knowing that everyone there values what I contribute. If you're reading this and you're in a relationship where your partner won't stand up for you, where you're consistently disrespected and dismissed, leave. Choose yourself. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. I'm 35, divorced, debt-free, respected at my job, and for the first time in 6 years, I'm enough. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. They say some people don't know what they have until it's gone. But my wife didn't just lose what she had. She handed it to someone who actually valued it. My name is Tyler Brennan. I'm 27 years old, a senior network administrator pulling in $78,000 a year at a mid-sized tech firm downtown. Not bad for a guy who started fixing computers in his garage. But none of that matters now. What matters is that I was married to my high school sweetheart, Stephanie, for 5 years. Was being the operative phrase. Let me take you back to where it all began, because understanding how we started makes what happened later cut so much deeper. I met Stephanie Carson in junior year chemistry class. Picture this: me, the quiet computer kid with thick glasses and social anxiety, paired with the most popular girl in our grade for a semester-long project. Stephanie was everything I wasn't: confident, outgoing, effortlessly beautiful with that long blonde hair and smile that could light up a room. She needed tutoring in chemistry. I needed someone to actually talk to me without looking at me like I was some kind of lab experiment myself. What started as study sessions in the library became something real. She'd laugh at my terrible science jokes. I'd help her understand molecular structures. Slowly, impossibly, we became friends. Then more than friends. By prom, we were inseparable. She chose me, the computer nerd, over the football captain who'd been chasing her for months. College nearly broke us. She went to state for communications. I stayed local for computer science. 2 hours apart might as well have been 2 different planets. But we made it work with weekend visits, daily phone calls, and the kind of naive faith that only teenage love can sustain. When she graduated, she moved back home. When I graduated, I proposed. Our wedding was small and perfect. 22 years old, both of us, standing in her parents' backyard under white Christmas lights, promising forever to each other. Her father walked her down the aisle with tears in his eyes. Her mother cried through the entire ceremony. Even her little sister Emma was sobbing into her tissues. Everyone believed in us. Hell, I believed in us. The early years were everything I'd dreamed of. We bought our first house together. Well, I bought it. I'd been saving since high school, working part-time jobs and living at home to build up a down payment. The 3-bedroom colonial on Maple Street wasn't fancy, but it was ours. I put it solely in my name, using my pre-marriage savings, but that was just paperwork. In my heart, everything I had was ours. Stephanie quit her receptionist job after our second year of marriage. "I want to focus on building our home," she said, and it made perfect sense to me. She'd cook dinner, keep the house beautiful, maybe start a family soon. I supported her completely. My parents had shown me what real partnership looked like. Dad working as a mechanic, Mom as a nurse, both contributing in their own ways. I thought Stephanie and I had that same understanding. For a while we did. But somewhere around our 6th year of marriage, things started to shift. Subtle changes at first, easy to dismiss. Stephanie joined a gym and started going religiously, 5 days a week. She began going out more with friends, girls' nights that stretched later and later. She'd come home smelling like alcohol and cigarettes, laughing about stories she wouldn't quite explain fully. "You should come out with us sometime," I'd suggest, and she'd wave me off. "It's just girl talk, Tyler. You'd be bored," she would reply. She started dropping comments that made my stomach twist. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't settled down so young," she'd say while scrolling through Facebook, looking at college friends posting pictures from bars and concerts. "I feel like I missed out on so much." Her phone became a permanent fixture in her hand, always face down on the table, always with her in the bathroom, always silent when I was around, but constantly buzzing when she thought I wasn't paying attention. When I'd ask about late-night texts, she'd say it was work or family or friends with relationship drama. I suggested date nights, weekend getaways. She always had excuses. Too tired from the gym, plans with friends. "Maybe next week, Tyler," she'd always respond. The worst part was how she made me feel crazy for noticing. When I'd point out that she seemed distant, she'd accuse me of being clingy. "You're imagining things," became her favorite phrase. My upbringing had taught me that commitment meant something, that marriage wasn't disposable. My parents had been together for 32 years. They'd shown me what real love looked like: steady, faithful, enduring. I thought Stephanie shared these values. I was an idiot. That last Tuesday morning, 7 years into our marriage, I woke up to an empty bed. Stephanie's side was cold. I called her name. No answer. Walking downstairs, I saw a folded piece of paper on the kitchen table with my name written across it. I opened it, read the first line, and my entire world collapsed in the space between one heartbeat and the next. "Tyler, I love you, but I can't do this anymore. I married too young and I've never been with anyone but you. I need to explore other options before I can commit to having children and spending the rest of my life with one person. I'll be staying with friends for a while to figure things out. Please don't try to contact me. I need space to discover who I am when I'm not somebody's wife. I'll come back when I'm ready to talk about our future. Stephanie." I read it 3 times before the words actually penetrated. Each reading felt like another punch to the gut. The clinical detachment of it. The way she wrote about our marriage like it was a subscription service she could pause whenever convenient. The assumption that I'd be waiting here like some loyal dog when she decided she was done exploring. But what gutted me most was that final line. "I'll come back when I'm ready." Not if. When. Like it was a given that I'd still be here, that our marriage would still be here, that she could just walk back into the life she'd abandoned whenever she felt like it. The strangest thing was how calm I felt. I wasn't crying, wasn't screaming, wasn't throwing things. I was just empty, numb, like my emotional system had overloaded and shut down completely. I got dressed, went to work, sat in meetings, fixed network problems, answered emails, functioned like a human being while feeling completely disconnected from everything around me. That evening, I called Stephanie's parents. Robert Carson answered on the second ring. "Tyler, how are you, son?" He greeted me warmly. "Robert, I need to tell you something. Stephanie left this morning. She left a note saying she needs to explore being with other people before committing to our marriage," I explained. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "What?" His voice was barely a whisper when he finally responded. She said she married too young and needs to see what else is out there before having kids with me, I continued. Jesus Christ, Tyler, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say, he replied, and I could hear him breathing heavily. Has she called you? Explained anything? He asked. No contact. The note said not to reach out to her, I answered. This is insane. Linda's going to lose her mind. Have you talked to Emma? He suggested. Emma, Stephanie's younger sister, 24 years old, a dental hygienist with her life together in ways Stephanie apparently didn't. Emma had always been sweet to me, always seemed to genuinely like me as a person, rather than just tolerating me as her sister's husband. Not yet. I wanted to call you first, I replied. Tyler, listen to me. You're family. Whatever happens between you and Stephanie, you're still family to us. This is not okay. What she's doing is not okay, he declared firmly. After hanging up, I stared at my phone for 10 minutes before calling Emma. Tyler? She sounded surprised when she answered. Is everything okay? She asked with concern. Not really. Stephanie left this morning. She left a note saying she needs to explore being with other men before committing to our marriage, I explained. She what? The shock in her voice was genuine, complete. Tyler, no. Oh my God, are you serious? She exclaimed. I have the note right here, I confirmed. That's insane. That's not... God, I knew she was being weird lately, but I never thought... Her voice trailed off, then came back stronger. Are you okay? Do you need anything? Company? Food? I can come over, she offered immediately. You don't have to... I started to protest. I'm already getting my keys. Give me 20 minutes, she interrupted decisively. Emma arrived in 18 minutes carrying bags of Thai food, my favorite, which she'd somehow remembered from family dinners. She took one look at me standing in the doorway and immediately wrapped me in a hug that lasted longer than was probably appropriate for a sister-in-law. But it was the first human warmth I'd felt all day. We sat on the couch, eating pad thai and trying to make sense of what Stephanie had done. I noticed she'd been restless, Emma admitted quietly. She kept complaining about settling down too young, about feeling like she'd missed out on her 20s. But Tyler, I told her she was being ridiculous. I told her you were a great guy and that she should appreciate what she had, she explained. You said that to her? I asked, surprised. Multiple times. She'd go on these rants about how all her single friends were having adventures and she was stuck playing house. I kept telling her that those friends were also lonely and dating losers, that what you two had was real, she replied with conviction. Over the following weeks, Emma became my lifeline. She checked in every day, sometimes just a text to make sure I was eating, sometimes showing up with dinner or inviting me out for coffee. She never made it feel like pity or obligation. It felt like genuine care from someone who actually wanted to spend time with me. We'd talk for hours, about work, about books, about our families, about everything except Stephanie, until one evening when Emma brought it up herself. Can I ask you something? Were you happy? Really happy, I mean. Before all this, she inquired gently. I thought about it honestly. The last year? No. I was trying to be happy. I was trying to make her happy. But she'd become someone I didn't recognize. Someone who seemed to resent everything about our life together, I answered truthfully. She did resent it. She used to call me and complain about how boring you were, how predictable your life was, how she felt trapped, Emma revealed, looking at me with something like pain in her eyes. I always defended you. I always told her she was lucky to have someone stable and loyal and kind, she added firmly. 6 weeks after Stephanie left, I realized something that should have terrified me, but instead felt like the most natural thing in the world. I hadn't thought about Stephanie in 3 days. Instead, I'd been thinking about Emma, about her laugh when I told stupid jokes, about how she listened when I talked, really listened, about how comfortable it felt when she was in my house, in my space, in my life. I was falling for my wife's sister, and I wasn't going to fight it anymore. I invited Emma over for dinner on a Thursday night, not as the friend who'd been supporting me through the worst time of my life, but as something more. I cooked, really cooked, not just ordered takeout. Herb-crusted chicken with roasted vegetables and homemade mashed potatoes. The kind of meal Stephanie always said was too much effort for just us. Emma arrived with a bottle of wine and that smile that had become the best part of my days. She was wearing a blue sundress that brought out her eyes, and she'd done something different with her hair. For the first time since she'd been coming over, it felt like a date. "This smells amazing," she said, following me into the kitchen. "When did you learn to cook like this?" she asked admiringly. "I've always known how. Stephanie just never wanted me to bother," I replied. "Her loss," Emma responded, and something in the way she said it made my heart speed up. We ate at the dining room table instead of on the couch, with actual candles and the good china that hadn't been used in months. The conversation flowed easily. It always did with Emma. But there was an undercurrent tonight that we'd both been dancing around for weeks. "Emma," I said as we finished the main course, "I need to tell you something." She set down her fork, suddenly serious. "Okay," she replied quietly. "I want to thank you for everything you've done these past 2 months, for being here, for caring, for making sure I didn't disappear into my own head," I began earnestly. "Tyler, that's what friends do." She started to protest. "You're more than a friend," I interrupted, the words coming out quietly but firmly. "You've been there every single day. You've cared about me more in the last 8 weeks than Stephanie did in the last year of our marriage." Emma's cheeks flushed pink. "Tyler," she whispered. I reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm not saying this to make things weird between us. I just want you to know that you matter to me, not as Stephanie's sister. You matter to me as Emma," I said sincerely. She stared down at our joined hands for a long moment. When she looked up, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You matter to me too," she confessed softly. Over the next month, we spent almost every evening together. Sometimes at my house, sometimes at her apartment, sometimes just walking through the park or getting coffee downtown. One night, we went to see a movie, and when I drove her home, neither of us wanted the evening to end. We sat in her driveway talking until nearly midnight. When she finally reached for the door handle, I caught her hand. "Emma," I called softly. She turned to look at me, and I saw something in her eyes that made my breath catch. Permission. Hope. The same feeling that had been building between us for weeks. I kissed her. Soft at first, tentative, giving her every opportunity to pull away. Instead, she kissed me back with a sweetness that made my chest ache. When we finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "Is this wrong?" she whispered. "She left me," I said firmly. "She chose to walk away. I know, but she's my sister," she replied with uncertainty. "She made her choice, Emma. I'm making mine," I declared with conviction. Emma moved some belongings into the house gradually. Not a dramatic announcement, just small things that made sense. A toothbrush, some clothes for when she stayed over, her favorite coffee mug. It felt natural, organic, like she belonged there in ways Stephanie never quite had. While our relationship deepened, I was taking care of practical matters. The divorce attorney I consulted confirmed what I'd suspected. Since the house was solely in my name, purchased with my pre-marriage savings, Stephanie had no claim to it. With no children and Stephanie having contributed nothing financially for the past 3 years, the divorce would be straightforward. She abandoned the marriage, the lawyer explained professionally. Combined with her own written admission that she left to explore other options, she has no leverage here. I had the papers drawn up but didn't file them yet. I was waiting. I knew Stephanie would come back eventually, probably when her adventure got expensive or lonely or both. I wanted to be ready. I also changed the locks, consolidated our shared bank accounts into my name only. removed her from my health insurance. It wasn't vindictive. It was practical. She'd chosen to leave. I was choosing to move forward. Emma knew about all of it. She wasn't jealous or insecure about Stephanie's inevitable return. If anything, she seemed grimly satisfied that I wasn't sitting around waiting like a faithful dog. "She's going to lose her mind when she finds out," Emma said one evening as we cooked dinner together. "About us, I mean," she clarified. I stopped chopping vegetables and looked at her. "Are you okay with that? With whatever happens when she comes back?" I asked. Emma's smile was small but fierce. "Tyler, my sister threw away the best thing that ever happened to her. She doesn't get to be upset when someone else recognizes your worth," she replied with determination. "It might get ugly," I warned. "Let it get ugly. She made her choice 3 months ago. You've made yours. She doesn't get to walk back in and pretend there aren't consequences," she responded firmly. "You know she's going to lose her mind when she finds out, right?" Emma added with a knowing look. I smiled grimly. "Good. Let her feel what I felt when I read that note," I replied. Exactly 3 months after Stephanie left, Emma and I were in the living room when we heard a car pull into the driveway. We exchanged a knowing look. We both knew this moment would come. I walked to the door, divorce papers already in my jacket pocket. Emma stood beside me, no longer hiding. The knock came. I opened the door. Stephanie stood there with her suitcase, mascara smudged, looking like someone who'd just realized she'd made the worst mistake of her life. She was right. Stephanie stood at the door, suitcase in hand, hair different, shorter, darker, makeup smudged from crying, eyes red and desperate. Her first words carried an assumption that would shatter within seconds. "Tyler, I'm home," she declared, as if nothing had changed. The audacity of that word, home, hit me like a physical blow. 3 months of silence, of abandonment, and she stood there calling this place home like she'd never left. Like the note on the kitchen table had been some minor misunderstanding instead of a declaration of war on our marriage. I didn't move, didn't speak. My silence was more powerful than anger would have been. Stephanie's eyes drifted past me into the house, and she saw Emma in the kitchen making coffee, wearing one of my old college sweatshirts. The sight hit her like a sledgehammer. "Emma, why are you here?" she asked with growing confusion. Emma walked forward calmly, stood beside me with natural intimacy, and delivered the line that shattered Stephanie's world. "I live here now," she stated matter-of-factly. Stephanie's face drained of color. "What?" she gasped in disbelief. The horror, the dawning realization, it all hit at once. My voice was cold, emotionless when I spoke. "You left. You made your choice. I made mine." Stephanie's desperation erupted like a dam bursting. "Tyler, please. I made a mistake. I realize that now. I want to come home. I want us to work on this," she pleaded frantically. She was crying, mascara running, hands shaking as she reached for me. I didn't flinch. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the envelope of divorce papers, handed them to her. "What's this?" she asked, though she knew, but she was denying reality. "Divorce papers. Sign them," I ordered coldly. Stephanie's hands shook as she opened the envelope, read the first page. The reality of permanent consequences hit her hard. "Tyler, no. Please. I love you. I was confused. I just needed time," she begged desperately. I cut her off with brutal precision. "You had time. You chose to throw away 7 years for strangers. Now you're dealing with the consequences." "I made a mistake. People make mistakes." Stephanie's voice rose to a shriek, desperate and grasping. Emma stepped forward then, and this moment was critical. Emma wasn't catty or cruel, she was simply honest. "You didn't make a mistake, Stephanie. You made a choice. You walked away from a good man because you were selfish. And now he's found someone who actually values him," she declared calmly. Stephanie turned on her sister with venom. "You're sleeping with my husband?" she accused angrily. Emma's response was calm, final. Ex-husband, as soon as you sign those papers, she corrected firmly. Stephanie collapsed to her knees on the doorstep, sobbing with complete breakdown. Please, Tyler, please, give me another chance. I have nowhere to go. I spent all my money. I have nothing, she cried desperately. This detail revealed what her exploration actually was. Probably spending money on hotels, bars, dates with other men, attempting a lifestyle she couldn't afford. I looked down at her with no pity, no anger, just absolute finality. Sign the papers, leave them in the mailbox, don't come back, I commanded coldly. I closed the door. Inside, Emma squeezed my hand supportively. Outside, we heard Stephanie pounding on the door, sobbing, begging. We didn't open it. I made coffee. Emma sat beside me. We waited in silence. After an hour, the pounding stopped. A car engine started. Stephanie left. 2 weeks later, signed divorce papers appeared in the mailbox. Stephanie signed everything. She had no leverage, no claim, nothing. My attorney confirmed it was finalized quickly due to the clean circumstances. No children, no shared property, no financial entanglement. Stephanie got absolutely nothing, but she wasn't done trying. 2 weeks after the divorce was final, Stephanie returned late at night. She was thinner, exhausted, desperate. She knocked. I opened the door with Emma behind me. Tyler, please, I need help. I need money. Just $1,000. I haven't eaten in days. I have nowhere to go, she begged pathetically. My response was the final nail. F off, Stephanie, I said with finality. Emma added without malice, just truth. Get a job, like the rest of us, she suggested simply. I closed the door again. We didn't open it again. Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic. It's just watching someone realize they threw away something irreplaceable, and that you're happier without them. 1 year ago today, I woke up to an empty bed and a note that destroyed everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and the woman I'd married. Today, I wake up to Emma's arm draped across my chest, her face peaceful in the morning light streaming through our bedroom window. Our bedroom, our house, our life. I'm 28 now. Emma and I have been married for 6 months. A small ceremony at the courthouse with just family and close friends. Real friends. The kind who knew what Stephanie had done and celebrated the fact that I'd found something better. Her parents were there, crying happy tears this time. Even Robert and Linda Carson, Stephanie's parents, were there, welcoming me back into their family with open arms. You were always the son we wanted, Robert told me at the small reception afterward. We just got confused about which daughter was smart enough to appreciate you, he admitted with regret. Work has been good to me. The promotion to network security lead came with a bump to $88,000 a year, plus better benefits. Emma still works as a dental hygienist at the practice downtown, and she loves it. We're partners in every sense of the word, financially, emotionally, practically. She contributes. She participates. She shows up. We've been renovating the house together, making it truly ours instead of a museum of my failed marriage. New paint, new furniture, new memories. The master bedroom where Stephanie used to complain about everything is now bright and warm, filled with Emma's laughter and our shared dreams. We're talking seriously about kids, something that feels natural and exciting with Emma, whereas with Stephanie it always felt like an obligation I was pushing for alone. Stephanie's trajectory has been exactly what you'd expect from someone who traded stability for novelty. She works 2 part-time jobs now, cashier at a grocery store and hostess at a chain restaurant on the weekends. She lives in a studio apartment across town, the kind of place where the walls are thin and the neighbors are loud and the parking lot floods when it rains. Her social media, which Emma occasionally checks out of morbid curiosity, tells the story of someone trying desperately to convince herself she's happy. Photos of empty cocktails with captions about living my best life, selfies with forced smiles and expensive makeup she probably can't afford, posts about knowing your worth and not settling for less, the kind of empty empowerment slogans people use when they've realized they've settled for much, much less than what they had. Her parents barely speak to her anymore. They're civil at Christmas and birthdays, but the disappointment radiates off them. They've fully embraced Emma and me as the couple they should have always recognized. Linda sends Emma recipes and calls to check on us. Robert and I go fishing on weekends sometimes, and he never mentions his older daughter unless I bring her up first. Emma's relationship with her sister is completely non-existent. They haven't spoken since that night on the doorstep 8 months ago. Stephanie can't forgive Emma for stealing me, completely unable to acknowledge that she'd thrown me away first. She sees betrayal where there was only abandonment and consequences. The few mutual friends we had have mostly chosen sides, and those sides weren't difficult to pick. In a small city like ours, news travels fast. Everyone knows what happened, that Stephanie left her devoted husband to explore other men and came back to find him with her sister. The judgment has been swift and permanent. People remember loyalty. They remember faithfulness. They remember which spouse destroyed a 7-year marriage for a 3-month adventure. Stephanie texts me occasionally, usually late at night when loneliness and alcohol collide. Apologies, regrets, begging for just one conversation to explain everything. I never respond. I've blocked her number, but she finds new ones. Emma knows about the texts and isn't threatened. We laugh about the desperation sometimes, though not cruelly. There's no joy in watching someone self-destruct, even someone who deserves it. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't satisfaction in knowing she understands now what she gave up. That every night in her empty studio apartment, she's forced to confront the reality that her adventure led nowhere while I built a real life with someone who actually wanted to be part of it. People have asked if I feel guilty about Emma, about how fast we moved, about the fact that I was planning my future with her sister while Stephanie was still out there somewhere, sleeping with strangers and spending money she didn't have. I don't. Stephanie didn't leave because of Emma. She left because she valued novelty over loyalty, excitement over stability, the fantasy of what she might find over the reality of what she had. Emma didn't steal me. She was there when I needed someone, and real connection grew from genuine care and compatibility. We didn't sneak around. We weren't unfaithful. We were two people who found each other in honest circumstances and chose to build something together. Emma showed me what real loyalty looks like, what real partnership feels like, what it means to be with someone who doesn't take you for granted, who doesn't treat you like a backup plan, who doesn't make you feel like you're lucky they're settling for you. Stephanie wanted to explore. She wanted to see what else was out there. She found out. 3 months of bar hookups and expensive dinners with men who disappeared when the novelty wore off. 3 months of pretending to be someone she wasn't, trying to keep up with a lifestyle she couldn't afford, chasing a fantasy that existed only in her imagination. And what did she find? That the grass isn't greener, that excitement fades, that the single life looks a lot more fun from the inside of a stable marriage than it does from a studio apartment at 2 in the morning when you're 29 years old and starting over with nothing. She learned what she had when it was gone. But I learned something better. That sometimes what you think you've lost was just making room for what you actually needed. To anyone reading this, anyone who might be going through something similar, don't wait for people who don't value you. Don't give second chances to people who chose to leave. Don't put your life on hold for someone who's treating your relationship like a convenience store, something they can walk away from and expect to find exactly the same when they decide to come back. Life's too short. The right person is out there, sometimes closer than you think. I'm living proof of that. They say some people don't know what they have until it's gone. Stephanie learned that lesson, but I learned something better. That sometimes what you thought you lost was just making room for what you actually needed. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.